Greetings, Watford fans. Greetings. Welcome. This is Omar Moore, and this is the Orns 10-minute take on Watford 4, Manchester United 1. A great game for the Orns by all accounts in match day 12. And it was just really wonderful to see this Watford team do the things that we've all wanted, and I've talked about here on this YouTube channel a number of times, closing down the ball, being on the front foot, getting the mentality right, coming out with urgency and passion and energy and commitment and tenacity. And Watford did all of those things in really what was the best team performance we've seen from this club this season in the Premier League. No question about it. They defended well. They defended stoutly. There were only one or two defensive situations where they weren't keeping their shape, but their defensive shape otherwise was excellent throughout. What you saw today in this thumping win, and a well-deserved win, was a defensive unit that was committed and solid and organized, and also taking leadership positions. You saw players shouting at other players to get into position. Messina doing his job at left back very well today, shouting at players like Lauser, who was also brilliant today at the base of the midfield, to get into a position. And I tell you, it was really good. It all worked today defensively. And Ranieri clearly has built the base from defense for this Watford club. We've seen it. We've seen it in the Arsenal game a couple of weeks ago. Even though they lost that game, you knew that the corner was going to be turning defensively, because despite the Danny Rose era, and nobody's thinking about Danny Rose right now, I can assure you, because this back line today was outstanding. You saw the defensive movement, very good. You saw the left back, very good. You saw the right back, very good. Kiko Femenia today, outstanding, outstanding at right back. Defensively, he was good. He was patient. He was disciplined. And what Ranieri did with Femenia going forward was really good as well, because what he did was push Femenia higher up the pitch and give his pace the chance here, as he used his pace and used Femenia to go forward all the time, take the load off of Sarr, drift Sarr in to the middle positions, off the shoulder and in the attacking areas, to give Watford more space and a lively movement within that forward line. And Sarr had certainly dried up in goals. The Premier League had started to figure him out. I had said that Sarr needed to diversify his game and dimensionalize his game a little bit more, add some dimension to his game. He clearly had done that, despite the fact he was in international break. He was off with Senegal. Ranieri certainly had worked, I'm sure, with him in the couple of days he had with him before this match, to start utilizing his movement on the pitch better, because I don't think that Sarr's movement on the pitch had been as good the last few weeks. But again, down that right channel, the team had become very top heavy. And one of the things that I think Ranieri has done is try to diversify and get the balance across that forward line, and make the right wing only one option and not the sole option to get these goals coming through. And what he did with Femenia, moving him further up the pitch as your wing back and moving him further up the pitch to distribute the ball, giving that midfield time to center itself, while giving the forward line a lot more time to move around and create space. I thought it was very good. I thought it meant that we saw less crosses from Sarr coming in that were hitting near the goalkeeper, which had been happening throughout the last few weeks. I was criticizing Sarr for that. All these balls he would be crossing from the right side would go so close to the goalkeeper. And that's a function to me of a Premier League that's either figured him out or a tired player, although there should be no excuses for that at this early point of the season, even with international breaks and travel. The Sarr, I know Sarr plays with the national team in Senegal, but still should not have been an issue there for Sarr and company. But the point is that this forward line today looked really good. I like the way that Firmino was used. I think he's had his best game for Watford in a Premier League shirt, in a Watford shirt in the Premier League. Has Kiko Femenia. I think he really did do himself a great service today with his phenomenal play. I thought he was very good. I thought Nkulu was very good. He had to come off, looked like an injury. He may be out for a few weeks. I do not know. Haven't heard the official reports yet as I'm recording this. But he was very good today. Cathcart, solid as a rock today. Certainly had not been in some of these games, but he's obviously improved dramatically the last couple of games. Cathcart's been absolutely stellar, I think, as he moves into the latter stages of his career. He certainly is looking very good these days, at least in that pairing with Nkulu. But Nkulu now, goodness knows how long he'll be out for. Hopefully, it's not very long. But he has definitely set the marker there in that defensive pairing. And he's also brought some leadership as this veteran player, and he's not even 100% fit yet. So hopefully Nkulu gets back soon. And Nicholas, I don't think you're watching this, but if you ever happen to stumble into this video, I wish you all the very best for a speedy recovery, and hope your injury is not too bad and that you can come back and keep doing what you've been doing for this Watford defense, because you've been absolutely brilliant. Really like the way you played this game for us. As for everybody else, look, I think the strategy today against Manchester United was fairly clear, was not to play the ball too much through the middle of the pitch, because of the way that United can retain the ball, get the ball back, and charge down the midfield areas and be quite good there. Even though their midfield's weak, they do have pacey players who are able to string a pass or two together very quickly and stretch the pitch very, very quickly indeed. The fact that Watford decided to play a lot of the play, if you remember, was down the sides, left and right, and then bringing the ball in later on toward the middle, obviously for the finished product, was a key. I think that was a good strategy. And then have people like Cleverly try to occupy the top part of that midfield and make sure that everything was sealed in and moving forward. And Cleverly did a very good job at that, by the way. His leadership quality could definitely be felt today against his former club. In fact, there were a number of Watford players today playing against their former club. Apart from Cleverly, you had Cathcart, who was at Manchester United. You had Ben Foster, who was at Manchester United. You had Josh King, who was at Manchester United. Maybe I've forgotten some others, but those particular players all had a major impact today. Ben Foster in goal was absolutely brilliant. Made some really good saves today that would have, on another day, perhaps, I don't know, would they have got by Ben Foster a couple of weeks ago? They probably would have, especially against a world class player, the likes of Cristiano Ronaldo, who was, goodness gracious, was he off his game today or what? Those are Cristiano Ronaldo goals that Ben Foster saved today. He saved all three or four shots that Ronaldo fired at him, and it's incredible that those did not find the back of the net. But next week they probably will for Ronaldo. But the point is that Ben Foster today showed you, and I've criticized him, as have some other Watford fans, that when he is on, he is superbly on. And his goalkeeping today, I thought, very good. His angles are very good. His awareness is very good. His distribution was very good today. Nothing careless or sloppy at all from Ben Foster. Um, he was locked in, and that's what this team was today. What you saw today, and I called for this in the Friday Focus, was a sharper, more tenacious, more committed, and more up tempo Watford side. I wanted them actually to be a bit more physical, but as we saw in this match, it was Manchester United that were the more physical team with all of these fouls. I mean, McTominay left one in on, I believe it was on Ismail Sarr, and that's when Sarr had to come off. It was a nasty tackle. It could have been Danny Van de Beek, but one of those two players left a really bad tackle in on Sarr, and it could have been his knee actually, but he came off, hobbled off, didn't look good. But when the whistle blew for the final whistle blew, I was able to see a shot, a video of Sarr moving and walking, and he looked a whole lot better now. We'll see what happens with Sarr. Hopefully, he'll be back next week. He may be out. Who knows? It just depends on when we find out about the injury. At least at the time of this recording, I'm not sure if there's been any news. I'm not aware of any news on Sarr. But the bottom line is that Ismail Sarr, and let's talk about him for a moment. He started this game off really poorly. You couldn't have started a game as poorly as he did, missing two from the penalty spot. The first one, encroachment from his good friend Kiko Femenia, poorly struck. And then the second one, even worse. And David De Gea could have closed his eyes and saved that particular shot. Really poor from the Watford front line man. I don't know if he's going to be taking any penalties next week if they happen. That was Watford's first penalty kick of the season. And quite frankly, the reason why Saw has been taking these penalties is, hey, he scored the penalty that got Watford into the Premier League. If you remember the game against Millwall in the Championship last season, April the 24th, 2021. I remember the day like it was yesterday. Um, but in that game, in the Championship at the Vic, it was Saw's penalty in the 12th minute of that game or whenever it was that set Watford on their way to the Premier League. So that was the only goal of the game. And the onus on the penalty kicks was always going to be Saar because that was the man who got you really into the Premier League with that kick, that spot kick against Millwall. And so they never changed the Watford brass. The Watford coaches never ever changed the penalty taker coming into the Premier League. And lo and behold, Saar looked very poor from the penalty spot today. No confidence in his shot from 12 yards out. Tried again, no, to hit the same kind of shot, which to me is a player at that point who is lacking confidence. And I mentioned this on Twitter at Orns WFC that I thought that he had been really low on confidence, and the last few weeks had shown that because he hadn't really made a dent in any of these games, particularly the game last week, a couple of weeks back against Arsenal. He had not made a dent. He had been poor and very ineffective and ineffectual throughout the last 6 games, 5 or 6 games. He had just not been on it, and had not scored since a while back. So that was where you were with Saar. And then lo and behold, after Josh King scored, and Josh King again, brilliant today, getting his fourth goal in Watford colours now. So he's up and running on the score sheet. He's got 4 for the Orns so far in the Premier League. And after that goal, it opened things up. And great saves from Foster to keep it at 1-0. And then it was Ismail Assar with a low drive, I think 37th minute of the game or somewhere 39th minute, whenever it was, in the first half that gave Watford a 2-0 advantage. And that's confidence. My goodness. All of a sudden, the Saar who had been scoring for fun on international duty for Senegal finally found the back of the net for Watford for the first time in, I think, about a month, at least a month, driving the ball low and hard into the bottom corner of the net, back of the net. Really good strike from Saar. And then he looked like a completely different player. And you saw how lively he was. So Ismail Assar, his goal made it 2-0. And from there, Watford looked fairly comfortable. Of course, the second half didn't start that way as Donny van de Beek came in for Man United, scoring within the first 6 minutes or so of the second half. It happens. Manchester United were never going to play as poorly as they did in that first half. So you knew that United were going to come out like gangbusters in that second half. They absolutely did that. Scoring the goal made it a lot tense, a lot more tense, a lot more nail biting and squeaky bum time as Watford rode out a lot of opportunities from Manchester United to have equalized. But the big blow for United was that sending off, and I think around the 73rd or 74th minute, or whenever it was, from Harry Maguire, the England central defender, doing himself no favors at all for his club. Really stupid challenge, actually foolish challenge on Tom Cleverley in his own like 18-yard box, really just outside it. Really pathetic stuff from Maguire fouling the former Manchester United man, and that was it for him. He had an early shower, and Watford found it actually hard, I think, to really do anything against the 10 men because that just seemed to actually lift Manchester United even more. And they created several clear-cut chances, as I said earlier. Ronaldo missed a bunch of them. How they did not score a second there, I do not know. They would have, had they scored a second, been right up for it, I think, United. But the fact of the matter is their first half was so poor, and that's because Watford made them poor. And after that, it was really curtains for United as Watford thankfully took control of the game in the last, I guess, 5 to 10 minutes because they really did look lively again. And just when they were managing the game out, they were on the counter, got a couple of big breaks, some poor passing from United, and Watford punished United for some bad defending and some poor passes. And that's the difference between this Watford side and the Watford side that Ranieri just started to take over and the Watford side that Cisco had, is that this Watford side punishes mistakes now. We saw that against Everton. We saw it. We almost saw it against Arsenal. Didn't quite get there. But we now see it again in this game against United, punishing these mistakes and continuing to kick on. And this game, in some ways, reminded me of 2 games. well, 3 games. Reminded me, obviously, of the game against Liverpool that we won 2 seasons ago, 3-0 at the Vic. It reminded me of a game a season or two before that when we beat Chelsea 4-1. That's actually the game this most reminds me of. On a Monday night, Javi Gracia was our manager. Watford were given no chance against Chelsea. Many of us thought that Chelsea were going to win the game. Chelsea were in very good form at the time, at that season, a few seasons back. Watford had been struggling, just like they have been this season. And in that game against Chelsea a few years ago on the Monday night at the Vic, Watford just buried Chelsea. I mean, they scored early in the game. I remember it like it was yesterday. Scored Eden Hazard scored to equalize right near the end of the first half, I think. And then from there, it was all Watford in the second half. Delafeo scored. Yanmat with another excellent goal against Chelsea. He always scores the wonder goals and the fantastic goals against Chelsea. And he did one again that night. And if I'm not mistaken, I think either Kiko Femenia actually may have scored in that game as well. Not 100% sure. Someone will tell me who got the fourth goal for Watford. Right now, I'm drawing a blank on that. But it was that kind of a night. And I think 2 of those goals, or at least one of those goals, came in injury time, came late against Chelsea. And you saw the same thing against Everton as well this season. 2 of the goals came in injury time. They came late in the game, like the 90th minute, 95th minute. The 2 goals came late, 92nd minute, whatever it was. And one thing that you're seeing under Ranieri now is that Ranieri is telling his team to not give up and to keep attacking. Do not be content to sit on a game, to sit on a lead, keep attacking. And that is what you've seen here the last game or two. So no question about it. And you see the mentality has changed a lot here now in these last couple of games. They're going forward, they're going for it. The team is on the same page. It was an excellent team performance today. The strikers and the forward line are absolutely moving to apply a killer instinct, and that's what Ranieri's growing for them. He's instilling a killer instinct in this team, and you're seeing it again. As I said, the Everton game, they never stopped. They never stopped when they were up 3-2. They kept going, kept going, kept going. Scored another, and they did the same thing again today at the Vic, scoring another late on, making it 3-1. The João Pedro strike, which was absolutely sublime, paying homage to his late stepfather. I thought that was a really emotional and nice touch, and it was really nice to see João Pedro get his first Premier League goal, and to get it at the Vic as well. I think it would really lift him, and he saw the celebration and the way he celebrated there, and also the way the fans, by the way, responded to the Watford fan who passed away in the last couple of weeks, Kevin, who passed away, and it's of course sad that that happened. And I thought that the way that the Watford fans handled that and the way that they were really nice, as they always are in a lot of these moments with the all these very tragic things happening. Um, the Vicarage Road faithful rose to the occasion again. I thought that was a very nice thing in the 60th minute to do that for the fan who passed away, the Watford fan, over the last couple of weeks. So and that, so there was an emotional quality to the game too there, with the fans, and also with João Pedro scoring and his saluting his late stepfather who passed away the last 2 or 3 weeks ago. So it all worked out today for Watford. It's a really good team performance. Josh King lively, Emmanuel Dennis scoring the fourth goal, and celebrating in style, of course, with the shirt going off and with everything else. Dennis is a real showman. That's one thing about Emmanuel Dennis. He is a showman extraordinaire, and he will always give you 110%, just like Josh King. And these are forwards and the forward line who are going to really work hard. And one of the things I called for in the Friday Focus was to make sure that you give your effort. As I said in that Friday Focus that I did yesterday, if you lose the game against Manchester United, I will never fault you if you give 110% effort. If you give effort and if you're trying, the fans rarely fault you for losing a game. But if you don't do anything, if you don't bring the energy and the attitude and the swagger and the mentality to win a game and the energy to win a game, and you lose it 1-0, then fans are not going to be happy. So, and I certainly wouldn't be either as a fan of this football club. And what you saw today is that Watford were the team that came out with the tempo, the energy, the mentality, the desire and they executed all across the pitch. The substitutions were very good. I thought the tactical movements were very good. I liked what Ranieri did. He didn't panic when United kept pressing the issue. He didn't panic. He made the substitutions very timely. The injuries helped affect that because, of course, you had to sub off Saar at that point, and then Kulu was not in good shape, so you had to sub him off. We put Troost in. Troost Kong actually did well. Felt that he anchored things pretty well after that. One of his better defensive performances for him, and I thought that was important that he was able to help hold things down. And overall, I thought everybody was committed. You have to have players at this club who are going to be committed at both ends of the pitch. What you saw today against Manchester United was a committed Watford on both ends of the pitch, and a team that never rested on its laurels, never sat on a lead, which is what they had done in a number of games this season. That we've not had a whole load of leads to sit on, but when we have against Norwich, we sat on a lead, conceded a goal. We did those kinds of things. We sat on leads in games, and it's not been good. And as I say, we have not had too many leads. The game even against Aston Villa to start the season with, we sat on it a little bit. McGinn scores, and then the clumsy penalty giveaway. I'm not going to go back to August the 14th, but I just have. So we will know about that. But now we are at November the 20th, and this team now with a really good performance, outplayed United's players. We made United look poor. We had a cutting edge, a killer instinct to us. For the first time, I saw a real identity with this team. The balance on all these phases of play, the balance of all the phases of the pitch were right all the way through. Defense to midfield to forward line, the balance across was very, very good. You saw the same kind of energy and mentality in the defense that you saw in the midfield, that you saw in the forward line. When all those things came together, it was a very good, confident, attacking, and confidently attacking Watford performance today, which is what you need in this Premier League. You cannot give these teams respect, and the difference today is that Watford showed Manchester United no respect. One of the things that I noticed in some of these games previous to this one in the Premier League with Watford this season is that we'd given some of these teams too much respect. We gave Southampton too much respect. They had all this space on the pitch. We gave Liverpool far too much respect as well. And these games at the Vic are key games for Watford. Watford need to be winning these home games. And the difference today is that we showed Man United no respect. We were not gracious hosts. We were rude hosts, and we need to be that with every team at the Vic this season. We need to be rude hosts. We don't show them around the place. We don't give them an extra, 2 yards of real estate, extra 10 yards of real estate for them to roam around in. I went from a few weeks ago saying free room and board at the Vic to go find another place to go, because that is exactly how it has to be. Watford have to keep telling opponents, you go find somewhere else to go, because you're not going to get past us. You're not going to get past us. We're going to pressure the ball. We're going to defend better against the open ball live play, which they did today. One of the things I've called for, and you've heard it many times, is that this team has to be better defending against the live ball in open play. And you saw again, they did that today. They swarmed to the ball. They didn't let United get more than 5 to 6 yards before there was 2 or 3 players to meet that United player. That is ball pressure. That's the kind of thing that Ranieri is continuing to instill in them. This is something I'd called for even before Ranieri came in. One of my big criticisms is that Watford allowed too much space in a lot of these games for these teams to roam around in and make space and to run into. Not a good prescription for Premier League football. And I think Ranieri has seen the film. I'm sure the players have seen the film too. And it's very clear to me now that Ranieri has got them not only establishing a defensive block, but they've also established a way to defend against the live ball as well. So that regard, because when you do that, what you do is you free up space from your 18-yard box. You don't get camped out defending deep. So what you do is, yes, you leave space, but what he's done, Ranieri, is create a rotating defense. So the rotating defense has moved itself around so that when you pressure the ball, you force the United player to either give it up or try to go past you, and that player is not going to get past you when you've got 2 or 3 at the ball, and then you've got a flank coming up again behind that, so that if there is a ball entry and they're able to get through, there's another Watford defender to meet it. So that's what the ball pressure is. It's first, it's primary, and then secondary. It's the initial meeting of the ball that gets that trap. And then if they're able to play around us, we've got another bank of two coming in, and there's an overshift with the remaining players so they can stop an open outlay ball. And then it just compacts that Manchester United front line and compacts the way they're trying to play through midfield. So I think that Ranieri has made some really good adjustments here that help to limit areas on the pitch where the opponent can go to. And as a result, you saw some counter attacking that was really good at home. We'd not seen that really all season at home. And I'm just so thankful that the Ranieri effect is slowly but surely beginning to take effect. And certainly next week, it's going to be quite an emotional game. I think it's a Sunday game next week, as we will travel to the King Power to take on Leicester. It will be the first return, I think, for Ranieri to Leicester. He may have been back as a Fulham manager back in the day when he was with Fulham. But if not, this will indeed be his first return as an opposing manager to Leicester City, of course, the place where he won a Premier League title as manager for the Foxes. That's next Sunday, though. Today, what a performance. The goalkeeper was very good. And as I said before, I think I said before, I criticized Foster before this season, but no concerns about him today. He was outstanding. The whole team was. It was just a good, solid Ranieri team performance. Clearly, a team now that knows what its identity is on the pitch, and it's a never say die. It's off of the back of this game at least. It's a never say die. Don't rest on your laurels. We're going to move together as one on this pitch. And you saw it today. Laos are particularly good. All of them, Sissoko. I mean, you can see the leadership. You can see the strength and the leadership and the wisdom of a Sissoko and what he brings to this team. Calms it down, levels things down. Lauza was the same in that respect at the back of that midfield three. I thought that was an important move to root Lauza as the backmost midfielder at the bottom of that midfield triangle. But Musa Sissoko, my goodness me, again, a key signing for the Orns this season. And you see how he calms things down and brings the ball up the pitch. His ball distribution is very good. I think the passing was better today. There are a few cut out passes that didn't quite work out. It happens. You're never going to be 100% in your passing. But Watford's passing today, much sharper, much better, much more of a clinical edge. You saw the passing from Dennis. You saw toward the end, I think the passing got even better when they were trying to game manage. And when João Pedro came close to scoring with the header, and then he tried to go for goal when he could have actually continued to hold up play and hold the ball in the corner. He wanted to get on the scoring act, and he would do so just a few moments later. So, look, I think this team is still continuing to grow. It's still continuing to grow. This team has a long way to go. I still think that there's some more improvements that can be made with the team. Obviously, January is going to be coming in the next few weeks. I mean, we're only 6 weeks away from the end of the year in 2021. And one of the things I think we're going to have to do, and I think we all know this, we've all said this as Watford fans, we're going to need more defenders coming in. Sierra Alta's got the hamstring injury. You still got Cabaselli still working his way back. We are going to need some defensive reinforcements in Kulu. Who knows whether he'll be back next week or whether he'll sit out for a couple more weeks than that. Bottom line is, Nkulu's been fantastic, but the point is we need reinforcements defensively. And look, we need younger defenders too, if I may be so bold. We need defenders who are going to have a lot more energy to them and also going to be more fearless. I think Ngakia, of course, is the right back now, is going to have a hard time getting his place back after the performance of Kiko Femenia today. Kiko had been poor largely in large stretches of this Premier League season, and Ngakia had been playing very well. But Ngakia now is probably going to be on the bench for a little while, especially with performances like this today from Femenia. It'll be interesting to see what happens next. But that's just the way it goes. When you're on, you're on. And Danny Rose will be on the bench for a long time as well now, as a result of Adam Messina. Not one of my favorite Watford players, but that doesn't matter whether I think he's a favorite of mine or not. The fact is, he's getting it down the pitch. and I will always point out when players, whether I like them as much as other players or not, doesn't matter. And this is a team game, and Messina's been excellent here the last couple of games. He's taken on some leadership. He is barking at people. You want to see that if you're in your back line. You want to see people taking charge and being leaders. He set a good example. The set pieces, he had one that was pretty good, but the set pieces today, as I think I may have mentioned earlier, not the best. Watford are going to have to improve on that. When I said that there's things that they need to improve on, they've got a lot more work to do. The set pieces surely has to be one of them because they were not good today in that area. So we will see. I'm sure they'll improve on that on the training pitch during the week. But this is a happy recap. Watford smash United by a score of 4 goals to 1. Watford 4, Manchester United 1 in the Premier League. And that concludes this edition of the Orns 10 Minute Plus Take.